The amount of times I see in the comment section or I'm asked on one-on-one consultations, Kyron, which project is better for returns? And it's usually projects like HBAR versus Cardano. And I think in this case, a lot of us do love both of these projects because we know that they're great. We know that they work, they have the connections, they have the team, so on and so forth. And so the bigger question lies in which one is going to get me the most amount of returns in 2025. And so obviously this is the video for you. We're going to answer that question. And actually the answer is going to surprise you because it surprised me. And of course, I'm going to take you step by step through the working out so you can obviously see how we got here and then go ahead and apply this to your own projects. Because again, the result is like, how is this even possible? Okay. But I want to obviously describe it to you all. So let's begin by taking a look at some of the more basic stuff on the chart here first. So again, what we're doing here, we're not looking for any other statistic like who has the best tech, who has the most future potential past 2025. What we are looking for is which is the best investment for 2025. What's going to provide the most amount of returns or return on investments here, as you can see, right? So HBAR in the center, $1.9 billion market cap right now at 5.8 cents rather, and ADA Cardano, $10.4 billion market cap at 29 cents. Okay, so quite obviously, it's pretty crazy the fact that HBAR is more or less 10x lower in terms of market cap than Cardano. So what do you naturally think? Okay, it's definitely got more return on investment potential here, or at least explosive potential. Well, let's get to that in just a second. Now, let's have a look at HBAR over here first of all. Now, the current price, again, more or less, this was taken a while ago, but nevertheless, it pretty much is the same price, 5.8 cents, 5.2 cents, same. And as we can see here, we pretty well are close enough to where it was at all-time lows, basically at the start of this year. So this chart goes back 12 months, which pretty much shows us the whole entire bear market, because before this, the price was basically up like this. And so yeah, 45% up, probably now it's about 50% up from all-time lows, isn't too bad at all if you ask me. Now we're talking about market cap size as well. And just to show you the explosive potential in the last bull market, we saw that basically at the time of the halving, around May 11th-ish, what happened was we saw, the market cap went from $189 million and 36x up to 6.8 billion over here. Okay, and so obviously, again, we're looking into the price ranges over here for this chart up the top. Now, what happened with Cardano? Well, Cardano was a bit of a freak show, right? Because in the last 12 months, at least Cardano's up only 21%. So yes, now is a fantastic time to look at buying Cardano, not financial advice, of course. But we zoom in here to the last bull market, guys, and it went from a $1.9 billion market cap, it 50x'd. So what this is saying is that basically HBAR's price, or at least current market cap, it 50x to a $95 billion market cap. Now, all this, keep in mind, we're only looking at when the market cap was at $2.9 trillion. That's quite a large gain. It had about 4% of the total market share, as you can see down here. And so you might be thinking to yourself, Corin, this is some pretty cool stuff. Sure, fair enough. But where are you going with this? How are we going to find price predictions? Well, this is kind of where I come back to market dominance, okay? Because this is one of the ways that we can easily find price predictions, and is a way that I've taught people time and time again how they can quickly do it. Anyone can do this, anyone at any skill level. It's very simple, but of course, we're going to go that next step and break it down a little bit further. I'd like to briefly interrupt this program with a very special announcement. Guys, if you wanted to support all the hard work I put into making these videos for you, then there's two links down below I'm going to suggest you take a look at. The first is a sign up link to BitGet, which is one of the best exchanges in the space. These guys have a $300 million user protection fund and proof of reserve, so they're one of the safest exchanges and is the one I personally use for all my crypto investments. And for you non-traders out there, for you guys like me who prefer to invest and acquire the most important information and from the most reputable sources, then Token Metrics have also sponsored this channel, guys. They've offered you guys a free subscription to their basic plan, which is typically worth $20 a month or basically $200 a year. So please, if you take your investing seriously and want the most up-to-date information, go check out the links down below, guys. I've got you covered, and thank you for supporting me. Now, with that said, back to the video. So let's go back over here to HBAR and let's have a look at what I'm talking about. So market dominance is super important to have a look at on these projects because it gives us a bit of a glimpse into where it can possibly go in the future. Because one thing we have to understand about market dominance is that market dominance is basically saying this project consumes this amount of the market. So if the market's $1 trillion, and of course the market dominance is 10%, then it's 10% of 1 trillion, which of course is 100 billion. Okay, so that kind of gives us a good idea. So when we look at HBAR's market dominance chart here, market dominance of course is in pink, and the reddish color here is price, just for some idea. We can see that back in the halving, the market dominance for HBAR was 0.047%. So what actually happened was, at its peak, it 5x'd its market dominance, roughly speaking here, and went up to about 0.25% at its very top. And what's interesting to know is the global market cap actually increased 10x. So what this is essentially saying here is the market cap went up 10x. HBAR didn't hold its dominance hold on the entire market. It actually fell half of what it should have been, okay? So realistically, it should have been 2.5%, okay? Because the market 10x. Therefore, of course, HBAR should have 10x'd as well. But of course, I think we can all attribute that to the fact that HBAR was quite new. It pretty much launched earlier, in 2019/2020, okay? So it hadn't had a bull run yet. It wasn't as known. Whereas we come over here to Cardano's chart, and Cardano actually is interesting because what happened here was the market dominance itself, right, back at the halving was 0.49%, and which basically was 10x of HBAR's, coincidentally enough. It actually went up 10x as well to 4.05% with the market cap. So what that means is Cardano maintained its pretty much dominance in the market, okay? So obviously when the market goes up 10x in terms of how much money is involved in it, if the price of the project also 10x's as well, again, it's maintaining the equivalent amount of that total money in the market. Now, if it stayed the same, so for example, if Cardano stayed over here, the dominance of 0.49%, again, it wouldn't have maintained that, all right? So it would have been 0.49% of the global market cap at the time, which was more or less about, $3 trillion, okay? So when you start to understand this, you think to yourself, okay, so what this is essentially saying is, yes, as markets do develop, there's more projects that come out and more better projects as well. But of course, if we're looking at a rough figures here, we can then take these stats and then kind of extrapolate them into the next bull market, okay? Which is what I've essentially done in this video. So let me explain to you what I've done here. So the current market dominance of HBAR is currently at 0.16%. So already it's well and truly above what it was back here before, in the last halving, right? And the same thing with Cardano. Cardano is actually 1.1% right now, all the way over here. And again, in the last halving, it was 0.49%. So it's basically more or less doubled, all right? For both, essentially. So it's basically more or less doubled, and actually a lot more over here for HBAR, of course, as you can see for yourself. So again, what we're going to do here is we've got two variables, right? Okay, so what is the market dominance of each of these projects going to be in the next bull run? But also a very big factor here is what is the global market cap going to be? Because of course we have to multiply whatever the market dominance is by the market cap, if that makes sense. So to figure out, if you're talking about $1 trillion here, in the same example we gave before, well, what happens? I think a trillion is a little bit more zeros than that. Well, of course, we multiply it by whatever the dominance is. So in this case, for, let's just say the current, obviously current market dominance over here for Cardano, 1.1%, and that would give us our result in terms of market cap, okay? And so, of course, what we do here is assume, all right? We have to assume. And what we can assume here is that both ADA and HBAR will maintain their dominance right now into the next bull run, which means they won't lose their dominance, aka if we 6x our market cap right now, which will mean the market cap globally will be about 6 trillion, then we can expect these projects to ideally 6x their dominance as well, or possibly fall 2x short, like we saw with HBAR. So I get it, it's a little bit confusing right now. We're going to go over some numbers in just a second to level it all out so you guys can understand what I'm coming from here. But either way, this can provide us with some numbers as a very good benchmark until the next halving, which of course is when we should reassess. So I've always said to everyone, you should always be reassessing your price predictions and then reevaluating your sell levels, which is what this will be used for. And we need to do so probably ideally next in the halving, and that will give us a better indication of when these projects, what they're looking like. We can kind of compare them to what they were at the halving. Again, as you can see here, massive, jump up in market dominance over here for pretty much both of these projects at that time. Now, let's come back down here. What have I done? Well, of course, it's easy enough saying, okay, well, what if the market cap goes to 10 trillion and then figuring out, well, what if the projects also follow that and they 10x their dominance as well? So they're pretty much holding the market. They're holding their dominance within the global market cap. But that's one variable. There's so many other variables, and I've tried, as you can see here in a minute, to map as many examples or variables as possible. Now, what this will allow you and I to do, again, is what we should use this for, and that's plotting these different levels on a chart and then figuring out when we should take your initial investment out and also ladder sell. Now, for the purpose of this video, we're figuring out who has the most gains, okay? So let's get into it, of course. And again, this answer is going to shock you because it shocked me. And the interesting thing about this is numbers don't lie. It's all just numbers. And so when I was punching this in, I was like, hang on a second, this is crazy to think of. And a lot of you are going to go, hell no, Kyron, that's nuts. But again, I'm just punching the numbers here, right? So you're going to look at this screen and go, oh my God, there's so much information going on. Overload, overload, overload. Let me break it down for you very, very easily, okay? So what we've done here is figure out multiple different things. First of all, you'll see red and green. The green essentially is the market cap being 5 trillion, which I think most people agree will be the minimum that goes to the next bull market, right up to what people believe the maximum will be in the next bull market, which is 10 trillion, okay? That's one variable taken care of. Of course, anything in between can happen, and you'll see in a second I've kind of accounted for that. And over here, what do we have? Well, we have this second variable. We have the market dominance, okay? We have 3 different tiers here, or 3 different situations. We have what will happen if, in this case, it's obviously HBAR, okay? So we're talking about HBAR over here. What will happen if HBAR's market dominance remains the same? As you remember from over here, guys, the current market dominance is 0.16% right now for HBAR. We're also going to figure out what it's going to do on the max side of it. And of course, what happens if we 5x, okay? So what I'm essentially saying here is if the market cap goes up 5x from what it is now, it's roughly about 1.1 trillion. But let's round down obviously to a nice neat 1 trillion. So if the global market cap 5x's up to 5 trillion, I'm going to assume HBAR maintains its current dominance and 5x's as well. Again, that doesn't mean HBAR is outperforming the market. That doesn't mean that at all. All that means is HBAR is holding steady. It's not doing anything special, okay? And over here, of course, 1.6. So that's, of course, if it does a little bit better than the market. This is if it 10x's its foothold on the market. So it actually outperforms the market while the market maintains a $5 trillion global market cap. So this you can see as the high side, I guess, if you will. And over here, of course, the same thing situation, right? So what if the market cap goes up to $10 trillion, but HBAR actually falls short, okay, 0.8% over here, right? So the market cap goes up 10x, but HBAR only 5x's. So it's actually like almost halving the half, if that makes sense. And over here, of course, 10 trillion and 10xing. So that's, of course, if it performs correctly. 10x's, 10x's, all right? And so, of course, we do the same situation over here for the exact same situation over here for Cardano, okay? So, of course, the current market dominance is 1.1%. And the same thing, what if it 5x's? What if it 10x's? You guys get the idea, hopefully, by now. And what we come up here is very interesting, okay? So on the very low side of it, so if the market dominance stayed the same, which is very bad, this would mean HBAR and Cardano, respectively, performed horribly, okay? They obviously got outperformed by the market. While the low side of it, HBAR would be at 22 cents, aka the market cap would be 8 billion. And if the market cap went up to $10 trillion, it would be 16 billion or 44 cents. So anywhere in between there is very, very possible. Anywhere in between there, again, this is all depending on the minimum of $5 trillion market cap and maximum 10 trillion. If it goes beyond 10 trillion or beneath 5 trillion, we're in trouble. These are going to be kind of skewed, okay? Now, where I think it starts making more sense is if HBAR 5x's, okay, with the market. So it matches the market, but of course it falls short in the sense of it's not like outperforming the market. Well, what happens here? We have a $1.10 HBAR, which is a $40 billion market cap. On the other side of it, high side of it, okay, this is underperforming. We have a $2.20 token. So again, it's just doubling here. All it's doing, right? Okay. And then, of course, on the very, very high side, so what happens if HBAR outperforms the market at 5 trillion? You go to 80 billion, which happens to be the same price over here. You'll start to see these numbers reoccurring. And then, of course, what happens on the very, very high side of it? And so what's happening on the very, very high side, the best case, 10%, 10x, and 10x? Well, $4.40 is the outcome at $160 billion market cap. Okay, so that's quite high. Again, that's max. That's if HBAR sticks in, holds its ground, and the maximum situation happens with the market cap as well. We 10x the global market cap. Now, these are going to give us some numbers over here. I'll talk about these in just a minute. We'll compare the pair. And over here for Cardano, as you can see here, same situation, but of course, we're dealing with a higher market share here, a higher market dominance at 1.1%. So the money's a lot more. Okay, so the same thing over here, if it maintained the market share, it would be 55 billion at a low, okay, at $5 trillion market cap. Over here, 110 billion, so basically double that, of course, at a $10 trillion market cap. If, again, it was to stay the same, of course, we move over here. This starts looking a little bit freaky, right? So the market dominance went up 5 to 5.5%, so 5x. and of course it followed the market, the market 5x as well, it'd be $7.70, which honestly was more than I expected. The market cap would have to be $275 billion. And I know what some of you are thinking. You're looking at this going, oh my God, $275 billion. You might have skipped ahead and said, okay, over here it's $550 billion. If the market, if it 10x, basically if it outperformed the market by double, yes, that is quite a lot of money. Again, this is outperforming the market by double, but even by standards, $275 billion market cap, guys. Ethereum is pretty much at that right now. But what you have to understand here is the biggest variable of all, okay? And that's the market cap size. $5 trillion is, again, pretty much almost double of what we had before, okay? So understand that first. Understand if this plays out, this is just simple maths, okay? This is what Cardano did in the last bull run. In the last bull run, Cardano maintained its market share. So this is pretty much us looking at historical information saying it's going to do the same again, okay? So while these numbers are extremely high, it's not unfeasible to happen. Again, more money, more money. As simple as that. Like more money in the market, more money is going to flow into these projects, as you can see over here. Of course, with the low side of things, if the $10 trillion were in the market, of course, at its current state, we said $3.10. If it went actually up to $10 trillion and it didn't perform, so it underperformed the market by 2x, $15.40, and way up to $1.1 trillion over here, if of course it maintained a 10x when the market 10x'd, which is what it did last time, okay? So that's $30.80. Now, do I think that's possible? Do I think that Cardano's market cap will be the exact same size as the current global market cap? No, and that's where we come into these numbers over here, okay? These are more realistic numbers in my opinion. What we're doing here is taking the very, very lowest situation. So if the dominance stayed the same, okay, at the minimum $5 trillion market cap level, we'd have, if you bought $1,000 today of HBAR and ADA, you'd turn that into $3,700 with ADA, but $5,100 with Cardano. I couldn't believe that. You'd actually make more money with ADA. If we move up here, what's possible in the middle ground? Now, again, I've gone into what I believe is possible based on these numbers. Not too exaggerated, but definitely possible. I think $1 for HBAR and $5 for Cardano is definitely possible here. $17,000 for each, actually freakily enough, which is kind of crazy to think of that they're both the same exact multiples here. And then over here for the maximum side of things, what I've taken into consideration is what I believe are the minimal, like what it could actually realistically go to, okay? So over here, a $550 billion market cap on the minimum side of things. So if Cardano actually fell short on the max side of things, and also the max side of things, if Cardano actually outperformed the market at a $5 trillion, okay? So I kind of took that as the max because that to me seems the most realistic and actually hit both numbers here. So it reoccurred twice. And the same situation over here for HBAR. 80 billion over here, 80 billion over here, $2.20, $2.20. And so I just did that. Okay, pretty simple stuff. And this is why it's beautiful to look at multiple different levels here, of course. And so 37,400 for HBAR and 52,400 for ADA. I know, blew my mind. ADA actually would earn you more money in this case. Again, it's just numbers. It's just market dominance we're talking about here, guys. And so I've been telling people all along, HBAR, HBAR, HBAR. But of course, that means that, HBAR being a lower market cap, it's more explosive, right? If all of a sudden some really good news came out about it and people were like, oh my God, this is the next best thing in the world, which I believe it actually probably is, then of course there'd be more money flowing into it. Of course it would multiply more, but we have to go off what's the most realistic thing here. There's so many variables at play. We have to go with what at least appears to be the most obvious, or at least possible here, okay? Now, I want to say this is so long as ADA and HBAR follow the dominance levels that they're currently at right now, as well as the global market cap achieving these goals. So it's two very large variables there. The global market cap, what will that go to? And also, will its dominance hold or fall? But I think we've got two pretty well-rounded figures here in situations. And so I do think that these are pretty well obvious. And this gives us still this, the outcome of the video. Who actually will get the best and most amount of returns? ADA is the answer. Now, I want to say for the record here, what I was kind of mentioning a second ago, and the fact that HBAR could definitely outperform ADA, is that we do have less global market cap. We do have less market cap, obviously, in HBAR right now, and there is more explosive potential possibly here for HBAR if, the narrative plays out, the meme plays out, which is a massive meme over here for HBAR. Also, the quality of the connections and roadmap events. These all play into the possibility of a project outperforming the market, right? So going back to the max side of things, you know, if it obviously outperforms, right? So if the market cap 5x, 10x's, will the project maybe 10, 15x? So that's what we're talking about here, right? So market dominance is very, very important. And guys, that should hopefully answer all your questions down below. I've given you price levels, market caps, and also dominance. Don't hate the player, hate the game, okay? So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Stay tuned for more daily content. If you like this, hit the like button. It really does help me out. Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you soon.